A police community support officer, or community support officer, is a uniformed civilian member of police support staff in England and Wales. They are non-warranted but are provided a variety of police powers by the 43 territorial police forces in England and Wales. The British Transport Police PCSOs were introduced in September 2002 and first recruited by the Metropolitan Police under the Police Reform Act 2002 that was given Royal Assent by Elizabeth II on 24 July 2002. Proposals for PCSOs in Northern Ireland were prevented by a budget shortfall in the police service of Northern Ireland, as well as fears that the introduction of uniformed and unarmed PCSOs in Northern Ireland would mean they would potentially then become a legitimate target in the eyes of the IRA, who have attacked other civilians working for the police in Northern Ireland in the past. Scotland does not have PCSOs. In Scotland, PCSO stands for Police Custody and Security Officers, also known by the slang nickname turnkeys, who play a rather different role to that performed by PCSOs in England and Wales. There are currently 15,820 PCSOs in England and Wales. PCSO numbers have, like those of police constables, been falling in recent years due to economic cuts. At the peak in 2009, 16,814 PCSOs were employed. PCSOs represent 6.8% of total police employees in England and Wales. The Metropolitan Police has the highest contingent of PCSOs, accounting for a quarter of PCSOs nationally. The force with the second largest contingent is Greater Manchester Police with 837 PCSOs, which is 5% of the total. Pay for PCSOs varies from force to force, from between around £16,000 to around £27,000 per year. Role: most PCSOs work within a safer neighbourhood, a neighbourhood policing team that contains PCSOs, special constables and beat managers. These teams are led by a neighbourhood sergeant or inspector. Day-to-day duties usually include high-visibility patrolling, tackling antisocial behaviour, dealing with minor offences, gathering criminal intelligence and supporting frontline policing. The Home Office have specifically limited the powers designated to PCSOs to maintain the distinction between them and police officers. Some PCSOs are attached to road policing units, and British Transport Police PCSOs are deployed as part of station teams. As with many aspects of PCSOs, the specifics of each job description vary depending on the relevant force. Recruitment, selection and training of PCSOs. Recruitment and selection. Police forces will recruit PCSOs through adverts placed in newspapers and on the internet and by posters in public places. Some may use open days as a method of attracting applicants. The recruitment of PCSOs has helped some police forces increase the representation of ethnic minorities among their employees. Unlike with police constables, there is no set selection procedure for PCSOs, and the process varies between forces. Despite this, Section 38 of the Police Reform Act 2002 requires that chief constables, the commissioners in charge of police forces, have a duty to ensure a recruit is a suitable person to carry out the functions for the purposes of which they are designated, and is capable of effectively carrying out those functions. Generally, PCSOs will be selected through process that involves an application form, an interview, written numeracy and fitness tests, a medical test, and security and background vetting. Welsh PCSOs must have basic abilities to speak the Welsh language. As with a police constable, any applicant failing any stage of the recruitment process has to wait 6 months before applying again. training. Having passed the application process, a new PCSO then enters the training process. Unlike police constables, there is no set training procedure for PCSOs, so the training given varies from force to force. Despite this, Section 38 of the Police Reform Act 2002 requires the chief constables or commissioners to ensure a recruit has received adequate training in the carrying out of those functions and in the exercise and performance of the powers and duties to be conferred on him by virtue of their designation. The original PCSOs recruited in 2002 by the Metropolitan Police received only 3 weeks training, which was criticized as too little. The training period was eventually raised, and new Metropolitan Police PCSOs are now trained for 6 weeks. Training in other forces takes between 4 and 11 weeks, with the length of training depending on how close the PCSO's authority comes to that of a regular police officer. PCSOs are trained in a variety of tasks, including radio procedure, report writing, dealing with evidence, going to court, gathering intelligence, managing a crime scene, usage of PCSO powers under the Police Reform Act 2002 and any person powers, use of force, human rights, race and diversity, traffic direction and cordon manning, general health and safety, self-defense, and first aid. Written examinations are usually performed during training. Upon successful completion of training, there may be a passing out parade. After training, a new PCSO is normally sent out on patrol with a tutor, usually an experienced PCSO, until they are able to patrol on their own. All PCSOs go through a 12-month probationary period after completing training. Uniform and equipment. The uniform of a PCSO is similar to that of a police constable, but has a variety of uniquely distinguishing features depending on the wearer's respective force. As with a lot of things about PCSOs, the uniforms have a great deal of variation between police forces. The current ACPO guidance states that PCSOs should be recognizable to the public as police staff, but visibly distinct from regular police officers. Since PCSOs were first created in 2002, many forces have made changes to the uniforms issued. Most of these changes are commonly in regards to shirts, trousers and headgear. Headgear. A PCSO's headgear is normally a black formal peaked cap for men and a black bowler for women, although some forces are now opting for female PCSOs to wear the peaked cap. Headgear may or may not display the force crest. Some have a metal shield, usually blue, stating Community Support Officer, followed below with the name of the wearer's respective force in smaller letters. Some newer versions of such shields have the wearer's respective force crest printed on them. The band on the hat is a silver reflective band with blue edging, a plain blue band, or a black and white stiletto tartan checkered band. Male PCSOs wear flat caps rather than custodian helmets, which are worn by male police constables. The Metropolitan Police Authority noted in 2004 that the hats worn by male PCSOs were not rigid and may therefore not offer adequate protection. Female PCSOs wear bowler hats, contain foam padding as protection. Some forces have unique hat designs for PCSOs which are different from the more common styles, such as those worn by the City of London Police PCSOs, who adhere to the force's tradition of red detailing, red banding, and a red shield. Another is Merseyside Police, whose PCSOs wear a blue band with green edging. The badge is a black cloth patch similar to the metal shield used by some other forces. North Wales Police PCSOs wear black baseball caps with a blue band with police support written in both English and Welsh. They are the only force to issue baseball caps as standard headgear. Most forces use custodian helmets or or a flat peak cap. Surrey Police and Greater Manchester Police give their traffic PCSOs white-covered caps in the same style as traffic police officers. The hat retains though the standard blue band and force crest is other PCSOs in GMP. Formal uniform. Generally, most forces do not have a formal uniform for their PCSOs, but a few provide tunics. Tunics are the same as a police constable but may have special badging to distinguish the wearer as a PCSO. As with police constables, PCSOs very rarely wear tunics. One of the few examples was during the funeral of PCSO Mark Marshall of Devon and Cornwall Police, who was killed in Afghanistan whilst serving in the Territorial Army. His funeral was attended by police colleagues wearing tunics including PCSOs. In 2012, PCSOs who had been in service since Monday 6 February 2012 and had completed 5 full calendar years in the role were awarded the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal. This is a commemorative medal created in 2011 to mark the 60th anniversary of the accession to the throne of Elizabeth II. PCSOs awarded the honor may wear the ribbon of the medal while on daily routine patrol. This medal was also given to police constables under similar rules. Gwent Police issued a silver-colored Gwent Police Staff Diamond Jubilee Badge 2012, a small lapel badge awarded to all police constables and PCSOs who received the Jubilee Medal. Operational uniform shirts for PCSOs are either white, blue or black. Originally the shirts were collared, ironed, smart and formal with 2 front pockets and radio loops, but in recent years have being replaced in most forces with breathable shirts made to be worn with stab vests. Such new shirts, unlike the predecessors, are sometimes marked with PCSO or Police Community Support Officer on the sleeves or chest. North Wales Police now have the Welsh flag on both sleeves of the shirts, for both constables and PCSOs. Neckwear, if worn, is a tie for men or a cravat for women. Neckwear is normally light blue, but is sometimes black. Some police forces issue name and/or number badges to its officers to be worn on the uniforms. PCSOs in such forces have PCSO or Police Community Support Officer written before the name and number. The badge is sometimes also differently colored from the badge of regular police officers. Trousers are usually black or dark navy blue. Originally, these were ironed, smart and formal, but in recent years have being replaced in most forces with cargo pocketed designs to allow the PCSO to carry more items. Body armor vests are issued to PCSOs, although originally not all forces did this, and wearing one is usually compulsory. Staffordshire Police was the last police force to issue stab vests to PCSOs. They were only issued to officers of this force in April 2011. Some forces issue tactical vests to PCSOs that go over the body armor to provide alternative storage to a duty belt. The vest usually comes in black or high-vis yellow. Most PCSOs tend to wear blue epaulets on the shoulders, although some forces use black epaulets. Since 2009, a few forces began embroidering names onto epaulets. PCSOs are issued with high visibility jackets and waterproof coats of varying design depending on the force. Officers may also be issued with a simple tabard for traffic duties. PCSOs wear nylon duty belts with quick-release buckles to hold their equipment in pouches. Some police forces issue shoes or boots to PCSOs, although increasingly most do not. If shoes or boots are not issued, then PCSOs wear their own, which must be black and plain in design. The same rule applies to a police constable. Cycle patrol uniform. Special uniforms exist in most forces for cycling for both PCSOs and constables. This typically consists of a cycling helmet, breathable cycling shirt and cargo cycling trousers. High-visibility jackets or vests are normally compulsory for cycling. Equipment. PCSOs use a police radio to communicate with other PCSOs, police officers and the control room on the same channel. Some neighborhood police teams (NPT) or safer neighborhood teams also monitor local shop pub watch radios. A body armor vest is issued to all PCSOs, although in previous years some forces did not do this. Arrangements for use vary between forces, from compulsory use throughout shift down to officers' choice of use. Unlike constables, due to the non-confrontational nature of the role, PCSOs are not normally issued with batons, incapacitant spray, handcuffs or leg restraints. However, PCSOs are authorized to carry and use this equipment. Three forces are an exception to this convention. British Transport Police PCSOs are issued with handcuffs and leg restraints. Also Dyfed Powys Police and North Wales Police PCSOs are issued with handcuffs. Forces such as South Wales Police also issue biteback dog spray. Most police forces allow some PCSOs to use laser and radar guns to help enforce speed limits. Powers. PCSO powers vary between forces. The powers of PCSOs mainly stem from the Police Reform Act 2002, and every PCSO since 2007 has a number of standard powers that were introduced for all PCSOs regardless of which force they belong to. This is in addition to the discretionary powers that can be designated by the Chief Constable, the Commissioner of each PCSO's respective force. Before 2003, the British Transport Police was unable to have PCSOs until Section 28 of the Railways and Transport Safety Act 2003 allowed the BTP Chief Constable to recruit PCSOs and designate powers to them using the Police Reform Act 2002, which previously only extended to Chief Constables or Commissioners of Territorial Police Forces. PCSOs have a duty to act in the same manner and to the same standards as a police constable. Failure to do so could result in disciplinary or criminal proceedings related to misfeasance in public office or malfeasance in public office. Leeway may be given depending on the situation, as the circumstances may dictate they do not have the training or equipment to deal with a situation like a constable could. It is also accepted that PCSOs do not have to intervene in high-risk situations, and it is reasonable if they decide to withdraw from one. This is due to the non-confrontational purpose of the role. PCSOs are not attested constables, and therefore do not have the same powers over arrest under Section 24 of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984. They can, however, utilize the any person powers over arrest under Section 24A of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984. This means they are able to arrest anyone without warrant providing there are reasonable grounds to suspect they are committing, or have committed or are suspected to be guilty of an indictable or either way offense. This covers offenses such as arson, criminal damage, theft, assault, possession of a controlled drug and burglary, etc. All PCSOs can also make common law arrests in exactly the same manner as a constable to prevent a breach of the peace along with the power of entry. Legislation exists that states that PCSOs are entitled to use reasonable force in order to effect an arrest as described above, or to forcibly detain. There is also a reasonable code of conduct, which is a legitimate and tested defense to a common assault of which the Courts have accepted and has now been written into case law. The term to detain is a relatively new one, but under law it is considered a temporary arrest of the Police Reform Act 2002. As a result, a PCSO may any person arrest someone he or she has reasonable grounds to suspect is attempting to escape from lawful custody when subject to a detention requirement of the Police Reform Act 2002. Section 38 Offences Against the Person Act 1861 also creates the offence of assault with intent to resist arrest, which also covers the lawful apprehension, detention of himself or another. This is an either-way offence, meaning that the PCSO may also any person arrest for this offence in addition to the original proposed detention. PCSOs may, subject to permission from the force, carry handcuffs and leg restraints, which are both governed by the Criminal Law Act 1967, a common law, and can be used in the same manner as a constable. They may use them for detaining or arresting a person using reasonable force under the powers listed. There are 3 forces at present whose PCSOs are currently carrying handcuffs. PCSOs are also lawfully authorized to carry CS spray and a baton when on duty, although none have yet been provided by any chief officer of any police force. PCSOs have a number of other powers and abilities that they may exercise in the course of their duty. General power of a constable to seize property, issue fixed penalty notices for littering, breach of dog control orders and cycling on a footpath, require name and address where they have reason to believe a person has committed a road traffic offense, a relevant offense, a licensing offense, an active antisocial behavior, or is in possession of a controlled drug, confiscate alcohol from persons in designated places and from under 18s, or anyone considered involved in supplying under 18s with alcohol, seize and dispose of tobacco from under 16s, seize drugs under the Misuse of Drugs Act 1971, enter and search premises to save life or prevent serious damage to property, seize vehicles used to cause alarm, distress or annoyance, remove abandoned vehicles, stop bicycles, control traffic, carry out road checks, place traffic signs, enforce cordoned areas under the Terrorism Act 2000, photograph people away from a police station, stop and search in an authorized area under the Terrorism Act 2000 if authorized and supervised by a police officer. Certain additional powers which may be assigned to PCSOs by the Chief Constable, but which vary from force to force, include: detain a person suspected to have committed an offense or an act of antisocial behavior, detain a person who does not provide the name and address when required, detain a person who fails to provide details or complies with orders of a PCSO, use reasonable force in relation to a detained person or to prevent a detained person making off. This may involve the use of handcuffs and leg restraints if the PCSO has been issued with an authorized to use them, issue penalty notices for disorder, truancy, excluded pupils found in public places, dog fouling, graffiti and fly posting. Power of a constable to issue an FPN under Section 68 of the Antisocial Behavior, Crime and Policing Act 2014. Power to direct someone to leave a dispersal zone and or seize property in relation to suspected ASB. All the powers of a traffic warden. Enforce bylaws. Deal with begging. This involves requiring the person to stop begging as well as providing the name and address to the PCSO. Enforce certain licensing offenses. Search detained people for dangerous items, i.e. weapons and/or items that could affect an escape from the PCSO. Disperse groups and remove under 16s to the place of residence. Remove children contravening bans imposed by a curfew notice to the place of residence. Remove truants to designated premises. Search for alcohol and tobacco. enforce park trading offences, enter licensed premises, stop vehicles for testing, direct traffic for the purposes of escorting abnormal loads, deal with parking offences including giving fines. Individual chief constables or commissioners can increase the discretionary powers the PCSOs use from the existing list. PCSO powers were further increased by the Anti-Social Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act 2014 statute. This provided them with powers such as the power of a constable under Section 19 of PACE to seize any suspected criminal property or property suspected of being used in crime, and further traffic FPN powers. Expansion of powers. The proposed Policing and Crime Bill 2016 sets out dramatic expansions to the role of PCSO. Section 28 states a PCSO will be able to be designated with any power or duty of a constable. These excluded powers would be any power or duty of a constable to make an arrest, any power or duty of a constable to stop and search an individual or a vehicle or other thing, the power of a constable under Section 36 of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984, to perform the functions of a custody officer at a designated police station if a custody officer is not readily available to perform them, any power that is exercisable only by a constable of a particular rank, any power of a constable under the Terrorism Act 2000, the Terrorism Act 2006, the Counter-Terrorism Act 2008, the Terrorism Prevention and Investigation Measures Act 2011, the Counter-Terrorism and Security Act 2015. Any power of a constable under the Official Secrets Act 1911 to 1989, the power of a constable to make an application on behalf of the Commissioner of Police of the Metropolis under Section 6 of the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act 2000. This bill has currently progressed through the House of Commons and is now due to be passed to the House of Lords. Use of force. A PCSO can use reasonable force to arrest or detain a suspected offender. As citizens of the UK, all PCSOs have the power to use reasonable force. PCSOs in theory can all use handcuffs to detain using their own detention powers, or arrest using any person powers when on duty. At present only 3 forces permit this and issue handcuffs. The use of reasonable force is provided by S3 Criminal Law Act 1967, Common Law and the Human Rights Act 1998. In some cases, this use of force is provided by the Police Reform Act 2002. Reasonable force is further provided to PCSOs under Section 38 Police Reform Act 2002, when using a power which, in the same circumstances, would also be a power available to a constable. Relevant offences. The following are criminal offences in relation to PCSOs under the Police Reform Act 2002 for which a PCSO can detain, or a police constable can arrest for assaulting a PCSO during the course of his/her duty, assaulting an individual assisting a PCSO during the course of his/her duty, willfully obstructing or resisting a PCSO during the course of his/her duty, failing to provide personal details upon request to a PCSO, makes off, failing to provide correct personal details upon request to a PCSO, makes off, having provided false personal details upon request to a PCSO, acting in an antisocial manner, failure to give name, address to PCSO, acting in an antisocial manner, makes off whilst detained, acting in an antisocial manner, makes off whilst detained. Unarmed, fails to provide name, address to a PCSO, acting in an antisocial manner, makes off whilst accompanying PCSO to a police station, contravening a PCSO's requirement to hand over alcohol, contravening a PCSO's requirement to surrender tobacco, Failure to stop a vehicle as directed by a PCSO. Impersonating a PCSO. It is also an offence for a PCSO to imply that they have a power that they are not designated by their chief constable or commissioner. This list is not exhaustive. This list comes from definitions provided under paragraph 2 of Schedule 5 of the Police Reform Act 2002.